All right, lead heads. We are back with another episode of the Talking Lead podcast, leducating the uneducated since 2012. We're like one of the first, I think, in America, gun-related podcasts since the podcasts were a thing. As I alluded to last episode, if you guys didn't get a chance, make sure you go back and listen. We cut in some of our 2020 SHOT Show interviews, and we talked about the Boone and Crockett Club, who are big into hunting and conservation and supporting the conservation of our wildlife, not only in America but worldwide too. So that was a great interview there with Tony and CJ Buck from Buck Knives. Both of those guys are on the board of the Boone and Crockett Club. And then we had some friends from Italy. We had the gang from Garmont Boots. We had a time with the accents, but we powered through it, and it was a good interview. And if you haven't had an opportunity to try out their boots, they've got some really good hiking boots, mountain climbing boots if you're into the mountain climbing, the hunting, all rough terrain, cold weather type boots. They're really good boots, and I've really been enjoying the Nemesis that I've been trying out that they sent me not too long ago. So check out Garmont Boots and let them know you heard about them on the Talking Lead podcast.
The Fiocchi family has been producing high-quality ammunition since 1876. In 2020, Fiocchi's launching a full line of premium products, everything from self and home defense to the long-range categories. The Fiocchi Blue Guardian line will feature specially tuned products specifically for home and self-defense, featuring lead-free technology and the only NATO-certified zero-pollution primer in the world. Fiocchi's a proud sponsor of the Talking Lead podcast and the Leadhead Brigade. Fiocchi trains, Fiocchi protects.
So another thing I alluded to last episode was that we were going to get into talking a little bit about the gun ban that happened in Canada here recently to our neighbors up north. And I want to better understand it. So to do that, I brought in some experts from the area up there who this topic is near and dear to them. And they are the gun advocates. They're fighting the good fight up there in Canada. And Mike, I don't think, have you ever been on the show before?
Nope, never been on the show, man.
Okay, but we did take a class together.
Oh, yeah. We took that Rob Pincus class, that defensive pistol.
You came all the way from Canada to take that defensive pistol class with us. And you've been a fan of the show, listener to the show, a lead head for some time now, too. We've communicated through social media and through emails and whatnot. And joining us is Mike Anderson, and Mike is with Chimera Arms. And tell them a little bit about what you guys do, Mike.
So Chimera Firearms Training is a company that was started by a military member in Canada to basically bring about better training to law enforcement, military, armed professionals. And we do that with live fire. We do that with virtual reality training, with simulation training, things of that nature. So I'm the VP of Chimera Firearms Training. I do the day-to-day operations. I do a lot of different kind of spokesperson stuff these days now that this ban has been going on. And I also am one of the instructors. So I also teach the classes to the armed guards, the provincially licensed authorization to carry for armed guards in our province of Ontario. And that's me. And
you are a Canadian, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Even though you've got family that lives just down the road from me.
That's right. I did some time in university in Nashville, Tennessee, and came back to Canada, pursued my career, pursued my family, that kind of thing back here. But yeah, my folks still live in Nashville, and I'm still down there quite a bit, taking courses if I can and training when I can. So
there you go. Also joining us from Canada, we have one of their biggest and longtime gun advocates, and she is with the CCFR, which, let's make sure I don't screw this up, it's the Canadian Coalition for Firearms? Is that
Firearm Rights.
Firearm Rights, there we go. That's where the R, I knew there was a a reason for that R in there. But it's Tracey Wilson, and Tracey has been on numerous podcasts and radio shows. Some of you leadheads may have heard Tracey before in the past. She's been on Slamfire Radio, which are some good friends of ours who've been on the Talking Lead podcast from time to time. And Tracey is the Vice President of Public Relations. And Tracey, we were talking a little bit before we started, and you've been doing this for a while now. Talk about your background with the Canadian Coalition for Firearms Rights.
Well, the CCFR itself is only about 6 years old, so I am one of the original founders of the group. The reason we decided to launch this organization was we found there was a huge void in advocacy in Canada. So what's really different for us up here compared to for you guys down there, we don't have a Second Amendment to protect our right to own and enjoy our firearms in a safe and useful way. So, half the battle here is a public relations battle. It's a battle with the public's opinion on firearms ownership, what type of guns we should have. It's a lot of misinformation from media and legislators.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah, we figured we've got to do a little more than just lobby the government. I mean, that's fine and dandy when you've got a friendly government in power. However, since 2015, we've had a very far left liberal government and power here in Canada. And of course, they've done nothing but attack us from every avenue possible. And the worst is, of course, the gun ban by OIC, which would be the American equivalent to an executive order. So there's no debate in Parliament, no voice for our members of Parliament. There's 338 members from across the country that represent the voices of their constituents. And of course, those have all been silenced. There's no listening to experts, no reviewing the evidence, just evidence be damned. It is what it is. And they banned over 1,500 firearms and variants. So, including our
just
AR-15.
like that, like you said, here in America, it'd be the equivalent of an executive order, and you call that an OCI? What?
OIC, an ordering council. So it's the same thing. Yeah,
OIC.
They don't require any vote on it, so it's just
and
a
that was
deal.
done by your leader there, Justin Trudeau.
Yeah, Mr. Trudeau. Yeah.
Yeah,
and it's funny actually because the Parliament is suspended currently due to the COVID pandemic crisis.
Right.
So of course the Parliament's not even sitting, so there's no way for
nobody to
opposition MPs to even oppose it.
Yeah.
So we're locked in our houses, and at the same time they're telling us that a huge portion of our firearms are now
just
illegal
like that.
to own.
You wake up one morning and all of a sudden you're felons. But we're going to talk more about that. There's more that goes behind this. We're going to talk more about that. But before we get into that, and I think this is going to be a good opportunity, I think you guys are probably going to have several nominations for our Talking Lead Jackwagon train this week. So, Gunny, bring that train in.
Hoorah, Semper Fi, do or die, hold 'em high at 8th and I. It is time for the Talking Lead Jackwagon of the Week, so brace yourself, baby.
All right, so the train has stationed, and I'm going to hold true to form. I'm going to go to my guest first, and let's hear who their Jackwagon nominations are for this episode. And we'll start with Tracey, because I know she's probably ready to really throw some people under the train, huh?
Oh, yeah. Well, ladies first, right?
Ladies first, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm going to throw Bill Blair under the train, just like I always do. This week in Parliament, there is a small amount of MPs who are gathered in Ottawa to discuss, different matters. And there was a series of questioning yesterday in the House of Commons between a Conservative member of Parliament, Glenn Motz, and, of course, the Liberal Minister, Bill Blair. And Glenn Motz was firing these questions at him full auto. It was beautiful. It was just hammering him over the head with them. And he got so red-faced and so stumbly and bumbly, and he couldn't get his words out. And it was just such a beautiful sight to see. He turned about 15 shades of crimson and was super flustered. And I'm telling you, I was watching this from the safety of my home, just cheering him on. So, yeah, Bill Blair flat out lied to Canadians once again yesterday, saying that, we have no moral reason to own these firearms.
I mean, it's the same argument we get here in America, too. Even though we have the Second Amendment, we feel, as Americans, we feel that that's enough. That's all we need. We've got the Second Amendment to protect us for their gun rights. But that's not true, because we are constantly, day in and day out, getting barraged with individuals just like Bill Blair here in America that say, why do you need this? There's no reason for this. And they're constantly trying to come up with ways to limit and take away our gun rights. And you still got to fight tooth and nail day in and day out.
Well, yeah, we do have a constitution that protects our ability to own things, and or at least it should. We're going to put that to the test coming up in federal court. So we are taking Bill Blair and his band of crazy leftists to court, along with RCMP, which is our federal police force, who is responsible for the classification of firearms. So we're taking them all to court. And this will be kind of precedent setting. We are going to set the tone. Is the government able to, at the whim of one single leader, able to come and confiscate, millions, if not billions of dollars of property from Canadians who have done nothing to warrant this kind of action? No,
absolutely.
So,
yeah.
I mean, it's guns now, but what's next? Your bank account, your house, your vehicles, what's next, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
What about you, Mike? Who's your jackwagon?
It was Bill Blair from the beginning, and
this guy must be a real douche.
Well, listen, he's got a history as being the chief of police of the Toronto Police Force, Toronto Police Service, back in the day, and then switched over to a more political role. And the things that he was answering with the other day, like Tracey mentioned, it was beautiful to watch, but at the same time frustrating, because he's saying things that just are blatant lies. He's saying things since May 1st, when this ban happened, that are just blatantly untrue. And on a personal level, we were promised a fact and evidence-based assessment of, the situation surrounding firearms. And what we got was the exact opposite. So he is the jackwagon of the century in Canada for firearms owners, for sure.
There you go. Sounds like our Nancy Pelosi here in America.
Yeah. Just the mouthpiece that never stops talking, even when they probably should at this point. And hopefully Tracey and her crew are just going to put an end to all of that kind of gum flapping lies that they're putting out there to us. So
I forgot to mention that Amanda Lynn Mayhew, who's the host of Just Hunt, was going to be joining us, but she is on a bear hunt, and her signal wasn't good enough to where she was able to join us. But we will get Amanda on another episode. And she was on several episodes back. We had met at SHOT Show, and we got along really good and had a great interview there with Amanda. So you guys go and tell her you missed her on this episode.
Yeah, we'll do.
Absolutely.
All right, so let's get into my jackwagons. I've got several. And I'm going to start off with not the obvious, which everybody thinks I'm going to probably head down, and I will get there eventually. But there has been this thing going around on social media, and it's where dudes are pointing pistols at their nads, shoving it up in their groin, with finger on the trigger.
What?
And I still haven't figured out what the point of this is. So this comes from Ammo Land. And I will credit the author if I find him. David Codera. I don't know. I always fuck up people's names on here, but they know who I'm talking about. It says, gun owners are putting their metal where their manhoods are in a bizarre trend that sees men courting danger to prove how well they can manage a gun. And that was in quotes. Those participating in the meme do so by pointing their gun at their genitals with the safety off, placing their finger over the trigger, and posting a photo of it on social media. And voila, just like that, proof they are very manly. And it goes on. It's a weird twist on Markley's Law, which is when antis who invariably consider themselves witty and original equate gun ownership and inadequate penis size. That in itself further shows progressive hypocrisy, as they're the ones who make a point of getting indigent over body shaming. So you can read through this, and I don't really see that there's a definitive reason as to or why this got started. But to me, anybody who's in my circles who's a firearms owner and follow the safety rules, I mean this would never happen. It just makes no sense to me whatsoever what they're trying to prove or what it is. But it's just stupid, and that's why they're jackwagons. So there you go.
Well, I mean, up here in Canada, we got millennials chewing on Tide Pods. So, you kind of can't.
Yeah, that's happening here in America too,
Yeah.
I don't know.
So obviously this is not your typical Second Amendment firearm advocate here who's doing this. It's probably some sort of, again, anti-gun person who is doing this and trying to just stir the shit, basically.
Yep.
That's what they're doing. And of course, when I see shit like this, I just skip over it. I don't give it any a second thought. But I did want to bring this up and let you guys know that the people that are doing this are not in our circle. They're not 2A advocates. Definitely not.
No.
Probably Antifa fuckers.
Probably, yeah.
Well, if it's natural selection, they got their finger on the trigger. Who knows, man? Maybe
I want to see one. Yeah, I want to see a undisciplined trigger finger there.
Yeah, exactly. Prevent future generations of that from happening. So.
Yeah. So another one, and I talked about this a while back, were the untraceable firearms, the 80% firearms. There's a good article, and I'm not going to go and read this article, but this is an Ammo Land article. It's Harold Hutchinson, and he gives a good breakdown of, I was talking about how it's completely legal to build your own firearms in America. You can build them, you just can't sell them. So that's the whole reason there's no serial numbers or anything like that. It doesn't require a serial number. But when you go to sell that, then you have to go register it with a serial number, and then you can sell it, and everything's fine as long as you're following those steps. But if this is something that you get into that you're doing, day in and day out, you're making them and then you're selling them, then at some point you're going to be required to get a manufacturer's license or something like that, So just know that. But if it's just something, it's a hobby, you're doing it at home, build one, enjoy it, sell it, trade it, whatever, you got to have that serial number put back on it. But this guy does a really good job on his article. You guys can go again to Ammo Land, Shooting Sports News, and it's Harold Hutchinson, and this was done not too long ago. First of the month, I think, is when this article came out. But I wanted to follow up because I talked about that on an earlier episode. Now, another thing, and of course, this is on everybody's mind. We've had the, and this has been worldwide with the virus, the coronavirus. So I'm sure in Canada, you guys have been on lockdown, and this has been affecting you guys too, and all the businesses and everything's been shut down, and everybody's been quarantined, right?
Yep.
Of course, here in America, that's happened too. And on top of that, before the virus even hit, we had natural disasters, hit us pretty hard in several different areas. Middle Tennessee being one of those where we got hit hard with tornadoes. I know the hurricane, it's hurricane season down in the Florida area, and they're getting hammered down there in the Gulf Coast with the hurricanes and flooding, and all that. And on top of that, then we get the coronavirus, and then now we've got the rioters. The riots that happened from this, what was his name, George Floyd murder, which, the guy was murdered. There's no doubt about it. The cop that did it, he's been arrested. He's going to face charges. I don't see any way he's going to be getting out of it. And now they're going after the officers that were also there with him, saying that they bear responsibility too, which I don't disagree with that whatsoever. But, justice is slow. It's not swift. It never has been. And what's going on here in America are lynch mobs. and the people that are doing the rioting, the looting, the murders, they're killing police officers and they're killing other citizens and beating other citizens, are not part of that protest. They couldn't tell you who George Floyd was. They think he was probably one of America's greatest boxers or something. Those people are jackwagons, and they're not typical of the message that the true, I guess protesters. I guess protest is the right word. The people that are out there and they're doing it in a lawful, respectful manner, and their message is being stolen by these opportunists that are going out, and whether it's an organized riot, whether it's an organized loot, from some organization like Antifa or whoever it may be, somehow these bricks are just magically appearing.
Yeah.
These pallets of bricks
just in the world. So.
Yeah, just show up somewhere. I mean, that just doesn't happen unless it's organized and planned and provoked. So the people that are, I don't want to say this.
Just say it.
Yeah. So the people that are out there, taking advantage of this situation for political reasons, for personal gain and profit as well, because you see a lot of that, and these people that are breaking into the Nike stores and just running in and out with shoes and hats and clothes and all that is just those are the jackwagons. Those are the people that are diminishing the whole point of this protest and the meaning behind the protest.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
So I hate to see that.
Think watching it from up here too, of course, the media isn't really showing us any of the peaceful protests, right? It's just complete mayhem and chaos, and it's horrifying. Like, I'm watching people being beaten. There's a former retired police officer that was shot yesterday, bled out on a Facebook Live. Like, this is just absolutely, I can't even understand what I'm seeing on the screen, of course. And the problem is, the legitimate protesters, there's a couple things that they're upset about, and they should be. And that's, of course, issues surrounding racism, but also police brutality. Yeah. Now, all of a sudden, nobody's even talking about that. All they're doing is talking about the violence and the fires and stuff getting burnt to the ground and Trump's Bible. And, it's like, I feel like the entire thing has been hijacked. And
exactly.
You've seen the brother of the murder victim. You've seen George's brother on national TV, begging for people to stop. This is being hijacked, and it breaks my heart. I almost, I don't want to live in a bubble, but I almost have to turn it off. I can't imagine what it's like for people living in cities that are just being burnt to the ground and, just destroyed. It's unimaginable.
And it's our leaders, it's our political leaders that are highlighting, again, like you said, it's not the actual, what the main purpose of the protest are. It does
the
diminish
real
it.
message, right?
Yeah. So I hate to see that.
I've seen some of our leftist politicians up here too. I've almost seen them, I want to be careful, but almost encouraging some of it going on, like making excuses for that bad behavior. And, at the end of the day, I was thinking about this morning when I'm, catching up on last night's activities, and I'm looking at it all and I'm thinking the idea of these protests and these public sentiment and, people rising up and trying to come together is to unite us as people, regardless of race or color or background. Do we feel more united? I feel like the hate is just being poured on the fires of evil here. Like I don't feel like it's working. So I don't know what the solution is, but I know our Canadian political leaders on the left are doing a really good job of fueling those fires, and it's
not just the left here; it's the right and the left here. They're both fueling it, for their own purposes, and it's sickening to see. But it was good to see some, there was some light today that some of the police forces around the country were, and in solidarity with the protesters. So it's like, look, we know that this isn't you guys. You know, you aren't the ones that are doing the rioting and the mayhem and the looting and all that. So, you know, we get that. But the people that are, you know, we're coming after you. We're going to get you. I don't know how many arrests have been made since this. I mean, I'm sure once it's all said and done, the numbers are going to be staggering. And, I mean, hopefully they'll be reported correctly. Unlike the coronavirus, but
on the Ottawa News this morning, they said over 9,000 people across the USA have already been arrested for, you know, violence and looting, and I'm sure that was this morning, so that was yesterday's numbers, right? So.
Yeah, you know, it's ridiculous too, because I mean, with the coronavirus, the whole thing was, you know, they were trying to thin out the jails and.
Yeah, they're letting people out.
For, you know, these misdemeanors and things like that, but now they're having to refill them right back up with these jack wagons.
People being injured.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think we may have flattened the curve for COVID, but we can't flatten the curve for people being beat in the streets of the cities,
being
right?
jack wagons, yeah.
Yeah. There's no cure for jack wagons apparently, so.
Well, yeah, that's true. So anyway, I wanted to get that out there, and you know that yes, what that former police officer did. What was his name?
Chauvin or something.
Derek or something like that.
Yeah, whatever his name was, and he is not representative of 99.99999% of all law enforcement. You know, he's an exception, and you know, he's going to be dealt with, definitely. It's just you got to give the system time to do its stuff. And the looting and the rioting and the saying that all cops are bad is just that's not the way to go, because they're not.
Mm-hmm.
Keith likes everything about the great outdoors. He's a lot like us. Whether we're bow hunting in the backcountry or plinking in the backyard, we want to enjoy each experience to the fullest. Kel-Tec's 22 caliber P17 is Heath's go-to pistol for a good time, on the range, on the trail, and anywhere in between. Weighing in at only 14 ounces with a full magazine, its compact size makes it easy to conceal or tuck away in a small pack, pocket, or space. It comes out of the box ready with a fiber optic front sight, a threaded barrel, a Picatinny rail, and a price point for any budget. With 3 16-round magazines, it's ready for hours of pure unadulterated enjoyment. It's easy, it's affordable, it's accurate, and it's a damn sweet marvel of plinking innovation. The Kel-Tec P17. It's more bang for less buck.
So enough of that. Let's talk about our heroes. And you know, right off the bat, I'm throwing our law enforcement men and women on the Talking Leadhead Brigade Heroes Lead Force One, especially for having to deal with this situation. I mean, I can't imagine being put in that position right now and having to face these mobs like they're having to do.
Yeah, agreed, man.
So you deal with law enforcement men and women in Canada and America. So talk about your experience.
Well, I mean, first, hero for me was that there's a sheriff in Michigan. He's been making the news lately, you know, basically addressing protesters like a real person.
Okay.
You know, he's saying we're on your side. He's saying, like, we don't agree with what's going on. We don't agree with protecting somebody that is, you know, obviously done something wrong, obviously murdered somebody, obviously killed a man, and we're as angry as you are. So he's literally putting down that, like, drawing a line in the sand.
He's like, that guy does not represent us. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. And he is calling out the people that would protect that type of behavior, saying you're not one of us either. You know, you're not what we stand for. Like, we stand for, you know, community safety. We stand for public service. And this guy is out there saying it and living it, and, you know, potentially putting his job on the line if the wrong people don't like the message he's got to deliver. So that for me it's a big win. And then, you know, law enforcement in general that are having to deal every day with the COVID, and then on top of the regular crime, And then on top of that,
the
now
natural
you've got
disasters, your regular crime, and now the rioters.
The perfect
and all
storm,
that.
right? The perfect storm of bad things that could happen to somebody who is, on the job, constantly under stress anyways, and in a job that by no means is easy day to day. One day could be
you're dealing with the worst
day.
of people in that line
and
of work.
people at their worst, right? People at their worst, and oftentimes, like, what we do is providing, supplemental training. You're often doing those things without adequate training sometimes, or without, real knowledge of the situations you're going into and how it could unfold, because that training is just not available to you. So hats off to them, and they really are heroes, especially through all this, paramedics and first line medical professionals as well. Yeah, exactly.
Well said. Tracey, what about you? You've got some heroes?
I do, actually. I've got a fresh one. It's fresh off the presses.
Fresh.
And I'm going to break rank with you guys, and I am going to give a huge shout out to Alberta Premier Jason Kenney. So up here in Canada, we've got provinces that are sort of like your states. We've only got 13 of them. And Jason Kenney is the premier of a western province, Alberta. It's kind of like your Montana, I suppose.
Okay. What's a premier? Is that like a mayor or a governor?
It would be like a governor.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he came out today with a press conference, and he is spitting mad at the federal government and their gun ban.
I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore.
And it's difficult because, of course, the feds do have jurisdiction over firearms, but there are some things that Premier Kenney can do. So today he announced he's going to be appointing his own chief firearms officer for his province. So that's sort of usually, like here in Ontario, ours is the OPP, the Ontario Provincial Police. Well, he says he's just going to appoint his own. He can appoint whoever he wants. He could appoint me if he wanted. Just throwing that out there if he's listening.
Yeah, he listens. He's a lit head.
Oh, yeah. So he also said they are going to develop their own firearm center where they are going to be tracing crime guns. What happens here in Canada now, when a crime is committed with a gun, and the cops come in and they do, take care of the scene. Let's say they recover a crime gun. They got to send it to Ottawa and wait for the RCMP firearms lab to, process the gun, go over it, try and trace it. It literally can take between 2 and 7 years to get any information on the gun. Of course, by then, it's too long. The trial gets thrown out because the cops are taking too long tracing the guns. So Jason Kenney's going to take it upon his own hands, since our federal government is completely incompetent to get this done. And he's going to have his own firearms center. So that's actually interesting. Yeah. And what also happens there is there may be some interpretation on the classification of firearms. So that could be actually huge for gun owners, because their firearms center may not agree with the RCMP classification. So this could be exactly the the cotton ball we need to throw in the fire. Yeah. And then he also announced a firearms advisory committee that's going to be made up of mostly gun owners. There's some former law enforcement, some armed forces people on there as well, and a couple of bureaucrats. But there's going to be a great, huge amount of representation from the firearms community. And lastly, he also announced that he is going to be considering supporting legal action against the federal government. Mm-hmm. So our case against the federal government just happened to be filed in Alberta. And one of the firearms manufacturers, Alberta Tactical Rifle, big shout out to them, they are interveners on our case. So we're hoping that we can literally have the premier of a province possibly join our case as an intervener. And help us. Yeah. It would literally be huge. And of course, this would sort of set a precedence for some of the other provinces that are largely conservative, like Saskatchewan and maybe even Ontario.
Very nice.
So, yeah, big shout out to Jason Kenney. He did
definitely an advocate you want on your side, and maybe some other premiers will follow suit.
Yeah, exactly.
That would be awesome.
Hey, Lefty, just that sheriff I was talking about was Chris Swanson out of Michigan.
Okay, Chris Swanson.
Yeah.
So mine is
have a look at that story, and it's a good story, and he's been in a couple of videos.
Yeah, yeah. So mine is out of Florida. It's Sheriff Grady Judd, and this has gone viral, so I'm sure most of you leadheads have seen this. It's Polk County, Florida Sheriff Grady Judd warned Monday night when he announced an 8 p.m. curfew that if looters show up under the guise of protesting for George Ford, we are going to hunt you down and lock you up if you engage in criminal conduct, Judd said. I would tell them if you value your life, they probably shouldn't do that in Polk County because the people of Polk County like guns. They have guns. I encourage them to own guns. And they're going to be in their homes tonight with their guns loaded. And if you try to break into their homes to steal, to set fires, I'm highly recommending they blow you back out of the house with their guns. So leave the community alone.
Oh, baby.
Strong. And that's from a sheriff there in Polk County. Which, you know, that's that every American has that right, you know. So yeah. I've heard of one incident where a business owner, and I heard it today, and I'll look it up real quick here in just a second. But he was a gun shop owner, and he was in his gun shop, and he spent the night in there because being responsible, you know, if people are going to be looting and stealing stuff, you don't want them stealing guns, obviously. Mm-hmm. So he camped out in his store, and sure enough, looters, rioters were breaking into his store, and he shot them. And they left.
Yeah.
They weren't able to steal any of the guns or firearms and use them in menacing ways. So let me look that up. I actually heard that from our buddy Rob. Saw it on Instagram. So Pincus, did you see that post?
On his Instagram story, I did. I caught that, and I was blown away too because I said, you know,
the one that I saw was him being interviewed by some guy, and he just talked about it. He didn't.
Yeah, different one.
Is it South Philly?
Rob's got another one where there's a shop owner, you know, just giving the kid the gears or whoever it is that was breaking in, and the writing underneath it was great because it was basically saying, you know, to some of these protesters, they don't understand what it is that they're doing is taking away the livelihood of men and women that have spent their lives building a business.
Oh, yeah.
And you know, to them, it's just stuff. You know, I want a new pair of Nikes, or nothing says, you know, I'm against racism like stealing a TV, right? But
or beating an old man and his wife, like you said, who have been icons of their community for generations. You know, just for a little mom and pop convenience store. You know.
Right. Yeah.
But this was South Philadelphia gun shop owner shot and killed a man trying to break into his store early Tuesday morning amid heightened looting concerns. Philadelphia police said the owner of Firing Line Inc. was staying the night inside the shop on South Front Street because over the last few nights, someone has tried breaking in. The owner told police he was monitoring his surveillance camera and saw 3 or 4 men trying to get in around 4:15 a.m. The group was using bolt cutters on the gate. A broken lock could later be seen on the ground. The group then smashed in the back door and broke glass, police said. When they made it upstairs, the 67-year-old owner started shooting his Bushmaster M4 rifle, shot one man in the head, police said. The man, who was in his 20s, died in the store. The other men ran off. Police found a handgun by the dead man that the owner said does not belong to his shop. Investigators believe the burglars brought that with them. And then it goes on and talks about that. Business owner was not hurt. So there you go. And he had every right to do that. Now, what Rob was talking about were the tactics that he had used to do this. You know, they were asking, what if he had been outside his shop, you know, guarding outside his shop? And Rob was like, well, you know, that wouldn't be a very good tactic because then, you know, you could take a brick to the head, take a Molotov cocktail. You know, something like that. So he's inside, and once they've breached and they're in there, you know, then there's no doubt, there's no question that, you know, what their intents are. And he took one of them down, and of course, you know, true to a criminal, you know, they're cowards. They took off, left their buddy there.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. So that guy is a hero. He makes the Talking Lead Leadhead Brigade, Lead Force 1-2, that store owner there in South Philadelphia, along with the sheriff that I just mentioned. So, you guys have anybody else you think we need to throw on there? They need honorable mention.
I mean, I'd like to nominate Tracey and Rod at the CCFR because they are fighting the fight for people gun owners that typically don't have the support of the rest of the country. Something that's nice about the Second Amendment that y'all have in the States is that even people who don't own guns support the Second Amendment because they know that once the Second Amendment falls, the First Amendment's right behind it, right? Yeah. In Canada, it just seems that the more they drive a wedge between whether it's rural and urban, it's gun owners and the rest of Canada, and there's really no voice. The news doesn't really like to cover it in a certain way. Politicians do try and steer clear of it, at least in Ontario. They don't do enough, you know, and the guys at CCFR and a couple of other groups in Canada, but mainly the CCFR with their new charter challenges is doing exactly what we need them to do.
Yeah.
So yeah, hats off to them as well.
You know, and like it or not, yes, definitely you guys deserve a seat on Lead Force 1, and you've got one. But something that this the COVID, and then of course with these recent riots have just strengthened the fact of the importance of our Second Amendment, that it's not just for hunting. Tucker Carlson did a piece, and I posted it on my Facebook page, that it just exemplified what the Second Amendment is about. It's not about just hunting. It's about protecting yourself, your family from not only just out, a robber here and there, but exactly what's happening right now. You've got looters. You got people that want to break into your house and harm you to take what you have. And you have every right to protect yourself, and you have every right to protect yourself with a firearm. Tyrannical governments, it goes into a lot more than just what, and I think a lot of the liberals have seen that now, because gun sales in America have quadrupled, gone through the roof. And it's not the people like me and my listeners, because we've already got our guns, we've got our ammo. Who's buying these? Yeah. Well, it's the liberals. It's the people who've been fighting it for all these years. I've even had some friends that have told me that they've got liberal friends that have asked them, "Hey, can I borrow one of your guns?"
Yeah.
And they're like, "No, you can't borrow one of my guns. Go get your own gun. You have every right to do that, and I'm not letting you borrow one of mine. I might give you some ammo, but go get your own gun." But yeah, I mean, I think a lot of this has brought out the reality of what the Second Amendment is really about to a lot of Americans. So let's get into what's going on with you guys, because you don't, like you said, you don't have the luxury of a Second Amendment, and I want to talk about what caused this and what led up to this. And I know it wasn't this one event, but it's like this event is the straw that broke the camel's back, right?
Yeah.
So, like you said, this has been going on for years, where they've been trying to cut you. And you've had some pretty strict gun laws to begin with. A lot more strict than here than in America, but not as strict, I think, as some people think that you might have had at one time. But talk about the event that led up to this. There was a mass murder that was going around, a dentist. So on April 18th, 19th, 2020, a man named Gabriel Wortman committed multiple shootings and set fires at 16 locations in the Canadian province of Nova Scotia. He killed 22 people and injured 3 others before he was shot and killed by the Royal Canadian Mounted Police in Enfield. For part of the 13-hour crime spree, this guy impersonated a police officer. So that's important. By driving a replica police car and wearing a police uniform. An investigation into this guy's motives is underway. Police are determining how he obtained firearms without a possession and acquisition license. Is that what it's called there in Canada? To be able to?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Okay. Police were criticized for not using Alert Ready to warn public about the attacks. So what is Alert Ready?
Like an Amber Alert system.
Okay.
So it's an all broadcast basically to mobile devices, television, stuff like that. So it would be like your
The Amber
basically
Alert.
your emergency alert. And I believe instead they used Twitter. They tweeted that things were going down. Yeah, they tweeted, hey, there's a guy killing people, burning houses, just, be on the lookout. Well, you'd have to be following the RCMP to get that tweet, first of all. And second of all, we have the infrastructure to alert a lot of people at the same time.
Through multiple modes of social media and whatnot.
And they chose phone,
not to do that.
Yeah. Amber Alert goes off and your phone buzzes at 3 o'clock in the morning if, children go missing, this, that, and the other. So it's something that we've had for a while.
Yeah. We've had it, and I think, speaking to some of the RCMP officers, I kind of think the reason they didn't use it was because of this. They knew, by that time, that they had a guy driving around in a mocked-up RCMP cruiser, wearing an RCMP uniform, going around killing people, shooting them, burning houses down, just creating this mayhem. So what do? Do they put out an alert telling everybody, be on the lookout for an RCMP car with an officer in it who could be a killer? Imagine being the actual RCMPs who are driving around also looking
the
for
real
the
ones, yeah.
Right. That's
could put an unnecessary target on their back.
Yeah, I'm not making excuses for it, but I can see how officer safety, of course, would be of the utmost importance.
Yeah.
So I think it was badly handled, but I understand some of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it goes on to say, so they didn't do that to warn about the public attacks, as well as not responding to reports of Wortman's behaviors and acts of domestic violence that he had made before. So apparently this guy had a history of violence. An investigation into law enforcement's response to the rampage, including the decision not to use Alert Ready, is underway. And I would assume that's still, while we're talking, that's still being investigated. There's been probably nothing done about that yet.
Not yet.
So the attacks are the deadliest rampage in Canadian history, exceeding the 1989
École Polytechnique.
École, is that what it is? École Polytechnique massacre in Montreal, where 15 people were shot and killed. On May 1st, in the wake of the attacks, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, did I say his name right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that how you say it? Trudeau?
Yep.
Trudeau.
Okay.
Yep.
And there might be some kind of French twist to it. Following through on a 2019 campaign promise, announced an immediate ban on some 1,500 makes and models of military-grade assault-style weapons, including the types used in these attacks.
It's funny because I can see your face as you're reading it, Marty. It's like, man.
I mean, we just can't get away from that stigmatism that some liberal media person named them, assault style. Military grade assault style.
That's not even a thing. It's not a thing.
It's not.
It's fake news.
The day that the military uses
most of the guns that I own exceed military grade. So
there you go. There you go.
Military grade is like a very small,
the lowest bidder, right?
Right, exactly.
Guns are made by the lowest bidder.
It's very low quality.
No.
So, and it goes on. I mean, you guys can go to Wikipedia and talk about this, but apparently this guy was at a party with his wife, and they got into an argument. He came home, and she left, or no, he tied her up, actually.
Yeah.
He kidnapped her, and then, did he kill her?
No, she got away and she hid in the woods.
Okay.
Yeah. So that she's how they found out that he was likely driving around in a mocked-up cruiser, wearing what appears to be an authentic uniform. So she told them. She said she told them what to look for, and that's how they knew. They couldn't figure out how he was eluding people. Well, it's because he looks like them. They were driving by him all night.
Yeah. And does anybody know how he had a car and how he had
Yeah. So up here in Canada, when a police force, they buy a fleet of cars for their officers and they run them for a couple of years. They do things to them and, make them into a police car. But they only run them for a couple of years. After that, they decommission them, strip off all the decals.
They do that here too, yeah.
an
Yeah,
auction.
and then they set them up for auction, right? And the public can go and buy these decommissioned police cars.
Yeah.
You know, usually they're been treated well and had their oil changes and all their stuff, right?
Sure.
So this guy had some sort of weird affinity for law enforcement, and he was hoarding these cars. He actually had 4 of them.
Oh, wow.
Now, he had this one fully mocked up. They've
He
located
had the stickers on it and everything.
Oh, yeah. Like the stickers, the lights. Like, see the picture of it? It is so authentic looking. And then, of course, his uniforms were authentic. So when inside his house, they actually found out he had all kinds of other uniforms. He burnt the house down, so they couldn't recover everything. But he had 4 cars that he was working on. Now, this one was his masterpiece, and he had it all done up. So it kind of went that you got this guy. He's a well-off.
He's a dentist or something, right? Yeah.
A denturist, yeah. And actually, he did a lot of charity work. He did free dentures for cancer victims. You know, it's like this really bizarre story of this guy. You know, he's not like your typical criminal, right? He's got some money, owns 4 beautiful homes. He's got some beautiful, properties right on the shore. Like, just
he's well off, well to do. Yeah.
Yeah, but he had some run-ins with violence. Previously, he had, outside of his clinic where he works on the dentures, there was a 15-year-old kid waiting for a bus, and I don't know what he was doing, if he was doing something annoying or I don't know. But anyways, the denturist came out, beat the crap out of this kid. There's a history of violence there. He had been reported by former intimate partners for violence and domestic violence. He had been reported neighbors who literally left the province and moved away from him because he was such a psychopath. There's this whole history that's now emerging on how this has all been reported to police.
Sounds very familiar, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. So this guy also had smuggled firearms. He went down to Maine all the time, and apparently he had some way that he was smuggling in firearms. So he had no firearms license. Every firearm he owned was illegal.
Yeah.
The majority of them smuggled in from the States. One of them from Canada. We're not entirely sure, if it was one that was taken off the police officer. He did murder an RCMP officer, a female, or if he stole it from somebody or how he acquired it. But in any event, it was every single firearm was completely illegal. He had no license to use them. Also, not all of his victims were died from being shot. Some of his victims, I believe 9 of them, died from being locked in buildings or homes that he set on fire. So this guy was just a brutal, awful person. He came across at one point. This proceeded through an evening, overnight. Then there was a couple hours of quietness. I'm assuming he was probably hiding out somewhere. And then it started back up in the morning. But he was basically pulling people over with this police car. And of course, you see an RCMP pulling you over on the highway. What do? You're going to stop. It's your federal police, right? And then he would murder them. So this started to come out that this was going on. And there was a female RCMP officer who, at one point, she came across him and she rammed his car to try and stop him. She was injured. He shot her. He went over to the car, dragged her out of the car, executed her in the street, and then confiscated her guns and her property as well. So, like, this guy's a complete animal, totally unlicensed.
He went back to that party and killed all the people at that party too, right?
You did go back and kill some people, and neighbors and stuff. There's some.
So it all started at this party. So somebody at this party said he had a little wee or something that set him off.
I don't know. Something happened. Yeah, we don't know.
Banged his wife or something. I don't know. But it all seems to have stemmed from that party because that's, and then he goes on this killing spree. Just something set him off.
Oh yeah. There's a lot of weird things that happened that night too. Like there's some stories coming out of Nova Scotia about one home that he went to in the neighborhood, and he knew they owned firearms. They were hunters. So he goes and he starts banging on their door, but they had heard through the local community that this was going on. And it was like, don't open your door. So they were yelling at him, we're not coming out. We've got guns. Get out of here. And he got in his car and left.
Yeah, because he's a coward.
Yeah, of course he's a coward. So this is you know, I mean, a lot of people think that Justin Trudeau, did this big gun ban for the people of Nova Scotia, but the people of Nova Scotia never asked for it, number one. And number two, Nova Scotia has a higher rate of gun ownership per capita than Ontario, Quebec, or even good old Alberta. So these are good, God-fearing, country-loving, salt-of-the-earth people, and they love their guns. So it's a tragedy.
And their guns saved their life that night.
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, that's the story coming out. It's hard to...
If they had not had firearms on them, it wouldn't have deterred him.
That's right. Yeah. And he didn't burn their home down with them in it, right? Which I assume is why he burned other people's homes, is maybe they wouldn't come out.
Because they were defenseless, yeah.
Right. So, yeah, it was an absolutely savage attack that nobody really has an understanding of what motivated him, or, you know, he's dead now, so we're never going to know.
Yeah. But the wife is still alive, right?
Yeah, just a terrible situation.
So she knows.
And of course,
she knows.
The country just went into shock and into mourning. And I mean, I'm right there with them. We all want to save for Canada, and we all want to see an end to crap like this. But
absolutely. How
on earth does the actions of an unlicensed criminal madman reflect on millions of Canadians who have done nothing wrong? You know, we're going to pay the price for his crimes now.
And we asked that question in America too. You know, when the mass massacres, mass murders happen here also. It's the same thing. It's like we want to punish. Knee-jerk reaction is we want to punish the gun owners, the responsible gun owners, which that's, 99.9% of the people who own the firearms. These people that are doing the people that are doing the mass murders and that they've, one, mental problems, two, they've come by the firearms illegally to begin with, three, they're using them illegally. They're not using them as they were intended to be used. But you guys, again, you don't have that Second Amendment to really to help you. But we could be executive ordered here too. An executive order could do the same thing to us here in America, and then we would have to rely on what you guys are having to do now. What you said, just take it to court and try and hopefully you're going to be heard and you're going to be given a fair trial. But on May 1st, so after this happened, it didn't happen immediately, but then Trudeau comes out, was it the next day or a couple of days later?
So basically what he did was he announced it on May 1st, and he said effective immediately. So as of right now, you don't get another day to go to the range. So I've got a lot of firearms here, and probably half of them are now banned. So I'm not allowed to move those firearms. I'm not allowed to take them and go bring them anywhere. I'm not allowed to take them to the range. I'm basically not allowed to I'm not allowed to sell them. I'm not allowed to do anything with them. I must keep them locked up and leave them here. Now we have a 2-year amnesty. So what happened was they put this executive order in, but of course they don't have any program in place to do anything about all these guns. Mm-hmm. They also don't know where they all are, because not all of them are restricted class, which are the only ones that are registered. So always remember, registration leads to confiscation. It's the only reason for it. So our AR-15s, which are relegated to semi-automatic here and a maximum capacity of 5 rounds. That's all we're allowed. It's 5 rounds. It's not any different than my deer gun. So now those guns are all registered. However, there's also guns on the ban list, that are not registered because they're non-restricted. So they got no idea who's got them, where they are. Exactly.
Which they shouldn't to begin with, like you said.
Right. But I mean.
So what he did, let me just back up just a little bit. So Trudeau on May 1st, like you said, he came out and he announced this ban, but that the sale, transportation, importation, and the use of military-grade assault weapons in Canada was now banned effective immediately. So not just those guns, but the sale, transportation, and importation. So no more importing from other countries or anything.
That's right. And all of our retailers and distributors who have inventory currently in their store, some of them hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of guns, are now sitting there with inventory they can't sell, but they're out the money for.
Yeah.
So, in the middle of a pandemic when their stores are closed anyways, now they're stuck with these huge bills. What's even worse is since that May 1st executive order, we've noticed that the RCMP, the federal police, have started reclassifying, random firearms that they're adding to this OIC on their own. And what's happened is we've got a supplier out in Manitoba, Wolverine Supplies. They looked at their inventory after May 1st. Okay, crap. Most of our stuff is now banned. We can't sell it. Okay, go stick it all in the warehouse. We'll just have to store it. We need something to sell. Let's order some fresh guns. So they go check the list, check the classification of the firearms they're looking at order in a skid of guns to put up in the store so they'd have at least something to sell. And by the time, while it was in transit, by the time it arrived at their loading dock, it had been added to the list.
Oh,
That's
wow.
not fair. That's not fair, man. Like, you're moving the goalposts.
Well, this whole thing's not fair.
Turn around.
the whole thing's not fair. There's nothing fair about this.
So they are actually intervening on our court case. So we're happy to have them.
So this 2-year amnesty period that they're giving you, it doesn't give you the ability to sell it or anything. You have to dispose of it, or you have to be grandfathered in. If you're grandfathered in, you still can't use them because they're banned, right? So they're just sitting in your house.
Right.
And if
And then when you die, they take them.
And if you dispose of them, how are you supposed to dispose of them? And are they reimbursing you for this? Are they giving you a confiscation check? Because it's not they're not buying them back, like you said on Slamfire Radio.
Yeah, well, I know they're calling it a buyback program. I call it a confiscation check program.
Right.
So they are going to implement something like that, apparently. However, they need to have it approved in a budget, which requires a House of Commons vote, which Parliament is now not sitting, and he's extended that until the fall. So we don't have a government right now to even vote on a budget, to even produce confiscation checks, which hopefully nobody will accept. So basically it's, okay, stay home with your banned guns and you're not allowed to do anything with them. In the meantime, we're going to keep adding stuff to the list, a list that you don't have access to. And if you get caught out there with something that is newly prohibited, you're going to prison because there's a mandatory minimum. So this is the state of gun ownership in Canada.
And at the time, there were 1,500 on here, and you're saying that list is growing.
Yeah, there's 320 new firearms that have been added to that list. There's a Globe and Mail article about it today. And the fact that gun owners not only haven't been notified that those guns have been added to that original list, we also don't have access to the RCMP's live website, which is called the Firearms Reference Table. And that's where they are making these changes. We don't have access to it as the general public, not to the live one. So you can look at something and it's totally fine to own today, and then don't check it tomorrow and you head out to the back 40 to go shoot some pop cans. And next thing you know, you're in possession of a prohibited device. That's a mandatory minimum of 2 years in prison.
So another thing that's come out of this, and this goes back to your jackwagon, Bill Blair, is the red flag law has been expanded there, which I would assume your red flag law is the same thing as ours. Is that where you go and you report somebody and then the police have the right to go and at that point confiscate their firearms?
Oh yeah, it's a act now, ask questions later type of system. So we literally have a 1-800 number. You can call in a safety concern anytime against anyone. And trust me, you have vindictive girlfriends and boyfriends doing it all the time.
Yeah, it's not a good system. It's
so he wants to expand that. What that looks like, I don't even know, but I know that he's been working very closely with this small group of activist doctors who have jumped up on the anti-gun lobby scene, and they want to have the ability that they can call the RCMP and have your guns confiscated from you. So,
we have that going on in some of our states here in America too, and it's gone horribly wrong.
Yeah,
just to say really, because it's like you said, it's typically a vindictive person, whether it's a wife or girlfriend or boyfriend or whatever it may be, or just jealous family member calling in another one and having their lives disrupted by this red flag law. And it's up to you at that point to prove yourself. Like you said, you're not innocent until proven guilty. You're guilty, and then you got to prove yourself innocent. And you're lucky if you even get your guns back, even if you're found not to have been in any violation.
Right. Well, the process is the punishment, right? You're going to go broke defending yourself in court and fighting just to get your guns back, and you may or may not be successful. So it's a pretty itchy program to begin with, and to think he's going to expand that. At the end of the day, I think Canadians and everybody watching all around the world needs to ask themselves, who are we trying to target with this type of legislation and these measures? Are we targeting the people that are committing violent crime or not? And we're not. Mm-mm. So it's, billions of dollars in cost, a total division of people in our country. Like, I don't know what the benefit is here to the government or to Canadians on any of this. The gangbangers running around Toronto shooting each other every day are laughing their heads off.
Yeah.
None of this touches them. So
no, it doesn't affect them because they're criminals anyway. They have this shit illegally to begin with, and they're going to continue to have it illegally.
Yeah, as if they care about what the law says, or as if they care which ones are banned and which ones aren't.
They don't. Yeah. It's like, hate it for the neighborhood over there. Now it's going to be easier pickings for us.
Yep.
It's a shame.
Yeah, it's a crazy, difficult fight, but it's one that we are literally going to throw everything that we've got at it. This one's for all the marbles. If we lose this, it's done.
What do you guys have to throw at it? What are you able to do other than just to take it to court?
Well, we do have the court case, and we're willing to go all the way to the Supreme Court with that, and that could be upwards of $1 million to fight that battle. We are also engaging in a massive public relations advertising campaign with mainstream media, and of course they're not giving us any breaks on cost for that. So
I'm sure they're probably charging you double.
Oh my God, the checks I've been writing here are a little, a lot of pucker factor going on here. But we're going to have stuff coming out. We are also producing a 2-part television series to kind of put the truth about this gun ban out there. I think a lot of Canadians, when you say, hey, do you support an assault rifle ban? They're like, well, yeah, okay, sure, right? Like, they don't even know what they're talking about. When I explain it to them from my point of view, they're like, oh, no, we should totally be addressing crime. So this is the problem, is that we're just not being provided the same audience that the government is, of course, because they pay for the media. So
sure. And they only get one side. Like you said, they're not getting the full story, and you're providing the truth.
Yeah. So we're going to invest some serious money in getting that truth out there to Canadians. And at the same time, the net benefit is not just keeping our guns, but I'm a mom and I'm a grandma, and I really want to see this government take a serious look at combating crime. Like, this is insane. The people are being hurt, and I don't want to live in a country that is just too lazy or doesn't have the political will to do something about the crime. So,
well, they're not even addressing the fact that this guy was impersonating a police officer.
Right?
Which that's how he was able to. Yeah, I mean, the guns had nothing to do with this. I mean, he could have had a baseball bat. He could have had a knife. He could have had a taser, whatever. And
could have been a toaster for what it mattered. He had the intent, right?
Right. He was gonna do his ill will no matter what. And plus, he was burning stuff down. Was.
Well, yeah, he's burning people. The most dangerous weapon that guy had was his car.
Yeah.
That police car.
Yeah.
That's the most dangerous weapon
his
he
disguise.
had.
His disguise.
It's instant trust, right? And even if you're hearing on the radio that something's going on, you're going to, you could be driving along the highway. One woman that he killed, she was on her way. She was a nurse on her way either home or to a shift. And she was getting text messages from her husband. Honey, be careful. There's something going on. I'm getting word from the neighbors. Mm-hmm. There's a guy out there. Well, she was terrified, and next thing you know, she's got a cop pulling her over, and she's like, "Thank God, I'm going to feel safe now." And it was him, and killed her.
And she didn't know that he was impersonating a cop because they didn't put that Amber Alert out thing.
That's right.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah, it's crazy.
My gosh. So what can our listeners do to help you guys out here in America? What can we do to help our fellow Canadians?
Send money.
Well, I'm going to shamelessly plug the CCFR. You can find us at firearmrights.ca. You can follow us on social media. My name is Tracey Wilson. I've got a pretty snappy Twitter account going on there. And we're on Facebook, of course. You know, I think the biggest thing you can do really, other than, of course, send money. Money makes the world go round. But other than that is share our content, share our message. The more people we can get it out there to, it sounds hokey, but changing hearts and minds is literally the only way to at least gain some ground here and not just win the battle, but win the war on public opinion, right? So
education wins every time.
Yeah.
And just got to educate people.
And it's something that could happen here in America too. I mean, this could very easily be us in the same, and it very well may be with all this crap that's going on right now. You know, so
I just did a podcast actually a couple weeks ago. It was his very first one with Colion Noir. I was his very first guest on his premiere episode.
Oh, and look at you go.
Oh, yeah. And it was called Why You Should Pay Attention to Canada's Gun Ban. And that's exactly what we were talking about, is how easily it can happen. And, you know, it's just one snip of the pen and it's a done deal.
It's one executive order. That's all it is. You know, we're one executive order away.
On his YouTube. Mm-hmm.
But I don't think we're going to go that quietly here in America. So.
No, I wouldn't imagine you guys would take it so gently the way that we have, and
that's the
I think
thing
there would be
too.
a lot of involvement.
You know, what is the overwhelming response there to this? I mean, are people vocally and physically protesting this? I mean, are you getting the marches in front of you?
We can't really protest with the COVID measures to a certain degree, right? Like the social
didn't stop them here.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't, and that's exactly it. Like we're protesting to a certain degree, but we're relying on the people like Tracey and like her organization to be the voice for right now. We're also relying on some of our MPs and our elected officials to do the right thing.
So you've not got any cowboys going out there shooting up public officials' offices or anything like that.
No,
we're Canada. We don't do
very
that.
Counterproductive. Yeah. Well, I mean, we don't encourage that here either. And people that are doing that don't represent us.
As we go along too, I've never been a huge fan of protests here because with the way the Canadian media does it is they'll go over to your protest, they'll find some, crazy looking toothless guy and acting all crazy.
Oh yeah, they get the worst ever representative.
Oh yeah, they're not going to put me, a Chihuahua owning grandma, on national TV to plead my case, right? They're going to find somebody that looks radical and
the guy screaming about his capital punishment plan and all this other stuff.
But I'm normally I don't support that kind of rallies, but we'll see how things progress here and when we come out of this COVID. But it's no longer off my desk. It's actually on my desk.
I think again the organized protest rallies are necessary. You gotta show them the numbers that the people are out there but you do it in the organized, peaceful manner.
Right.
And it can be done. Definitely.
Absolutely.
Can be done. You're still gonna get toothless Billy Bob show up, but you gotta check. You put him in check.
Yeah, well, that's exactly right. If we're gonna do it, we're gonna do it right. I'm gonna rent a stage and have audio and lights, and we're gonna do it upright. I'll have a film crew there. We have a TV show, so I'll do it upright. It won't be cardboard signs made with Sharpies and it'll be a process. So we'll see. We're talking about it.
Tracey, give your the CCFR Canadian Coalition for Firearms Rights. Give that your contact info on that, website, social media, all that again.
Sure. You can find us at firearmrights.ca or throw CCFR into your Google machine and it'll spit us right back out. You can find out all about us on there, and there's some buttons to find out how you can help. We're also at CCFR/CCDAF on Twitter and Canadian Coalition for Firearm Rights on Facebook. And my name is Tracey Wilson. I am everywhere, and you can find me pretty easy.
Do you guys have a radio show also?
Yeah, we do. We have CCFR Radio, which is a podcast show. As well, we have CCFR's Canada Downrange, which is our national TV show featuring nothing but handguns and black guns.
Nice.
So,
and how has this affected that TV show?
Well, the COVID has affected the TV show mostly.
Yeah.
We weren't able to film right now for season 3. Amanda Lynn's out in the bush right now because nothing says social distancing more than being alone in a tree stand. However, our show is basically filming these big, massive events that we have going on here, which of course have all been completely canceled. So season 3 may have to wait a year to come out, but season 2 is airing right now on the Sportsman's channel. Season 1, you can find it for free on our YouTube channel. We have a massive YouTube channel too, by the way.
Nice.
So you can go check out the episodes on there. They're all on there for free. But yeah, this will definitely have an impact because there's sports we have here that have been entirely decimated by this gun ban that just no longer will exist, right? So that's why we got to fight it.
Maybe not.
Maybe not.
Yeah.
Not if I'm still
for the time being. I mean, we've got IPSC, IDPA, and hunting, and all the other stuff that people have been doing that have the rifle class that are now totally, a WMD as far as the government is concerned.
Yeah.
My Robinson Armament XCR that I've hunted for years is now the same. My AR-15s, my Stag 10, things that were either sporting for IPSC and IDPA or hunted for years are now like, well, what do I do with it?
You can't do anything with it.
It's a really expensive paperweight, man.
And what if somebody breaks into your home and you use one of those for self-defense? Are you a criminal at that point?
That's going to be a case by case, but for the most part, I mean, that is a slippery slope to be on because the instant charge would be like, like your prohibited weapon, like that just looks
prohibited weapon, but at the same time, you gave me no guidelines on what to do with it. So
that's exactly it, right? Either send it for destruction or execute.
I was just playing devil's advocate there. So.
No, I know you, buddy.
So.
If that happens, just call me.
Yeah, call Tracey. They also do the firearms defense insurance, right? I mean, we've got firearms defense insurance through our membership to the organization. So anybody gets caught up in a legitimate jam up with their firearms are helped out.
CCFR handles that too.
Yeah, we're working on renegotiating something even better.
Now, are you guys in talk with any organizations here in America, NRA or NSSF or anything like that, to help with your cause?
Well, we are a member of the NSSF. Rod goes down to SHOT Show every year, of course, and pimps out looking for sponsorship for the TV show. I've actually never gone because I don't know. Membership dollars are so sacred to me that I wonder what the role for me would be at an American show as a Canadian advocate. So,
well, I mean, you do a very good job representing the cause, and you know a lot about it. So,
absolutely,
I don't see why not.
I've never gone. Maybe I'll go, but Rod's been down there in the States a few times, working with different companies and partners down there. The NRA doesn't really, we haven't had a whole lot of stuff. Coleon's been great. He invited me to premiere his show with him. And
that's awesome. He's never asked me to be on his show.
Yeah, doing a little bit of stuff. Because I'm a girl.
Lefty looks hurt. He's like, damn.
Damn, Coleon.
Lefty.
I mean, he's even got a
Canadian band.
He's even got a Leadhead Brigade T-shirt,
I love it.
I don't know. He sees my crazy videos and he said, I want to talk to that girl.
No, that's great. I mean, you're going to get all kinds of exposure through that. That's great. So, I mean, you couldn't find a better medium to get your word out in America than through Coleon. That's awesome.
I'm being the most vocal advocate too. Like Tracy's out there doing it all the time. So
yeah, very good.
And this is from like a member side. Like I see it as a member because like I'm a member, CCFR, and and supporting the community. But like everyone knows, I watch her Facebook, I watch the Instagram. I know when Tracey's posting something, and half the articles that keep us up to date as a community, she's the one posting them first. And then everybody reposts and retweets and follows suit and just spreads the word and tries to educate everyone else in the community, right? So
very good. I mean, that's what it is. You gotta do the word of mouth, So the members got to get involved and spread the word too. Share it, like it, repost it. Very good. Well, guys, thank you so much for taking the time to be on. That definitely educated me on what's going on there. I hope our listeners have a better understanding and grasp of what's happening with the gun ban there in Canada and what we can do to help. Go to
thank you for having us.
CCFR and donate. Definitely. Mm-hmm. And as Americans, we can do that, right? No problems with that. No issues.
No problems at all. We have lots of American members actually trying to help out. So it's awesome.
Very good. Very good. So we were talking a little bit off air. It is bear hunting season there.
Yes.
And you just got back from a bear hunt there, Mike. Talk about your bear hunt real quick.
Well, bear hunt was great, aside from the fact that one of the guns that I would typically use, which is a Stag 10, right? Stag 10 308 or Robinson Armament XCR, both in 308, would have been my go-to. That's my go-to rifle. It's lightweight. They're portable. They're nice modular guns, real ergonomic. But it's now caught up in this ban. So I decided, I'm going to pick up something else that normally I'd save for, say, sitting in a stand or moose hunting. And that's my 45-70 lever action. And that's what came out in the bush with me this time. But the real irony is that all of the claims that everyone's making about, these assault-style weapons, right? Is that they have high capacity. Yeah, air quotes. High-capacity assault-style weapons. Well, in Canada, it's 5 rounds, right? My lever action holds 5 rounds of a really big thumper caliber, and my XCR holds 5 rounds.
But it doesn't matter how much they can. They can only shoot one at a time.
Exactly. It's one trigger press. It's one bullet. It did the same thing. So why one and not the others, and why this, and all of the inconsistency across the board is just really, really funny. But it makes, it just makes it a challenge as a hunter sometimes with, if they are changing new guns, and like Tracey said, there's a couple hundred that's been added since the OIC that they didn't even make public. Well, how am I supposed to know if I have something that looks like an AR, like an AR-10 got caught up in this ban, the XCR got caught up in this ban, several other proprietary guns that were made specifically to avoid the AR-15 classification are now caught up in this ban. So if I didn't know, if I didn't keep up to date with all these things, and I'm out there and we've got a conservation officer checking up on, what we're doing. And he's like, well, hey, I'm going to run the serial number on that gun. And it comes back as a prohibited device. Well, like Tracey said, you're facing some major, major trouble, major jail time potentially for, and ignorance is never an excuse, right? You can never say, well, I didn't know. So, well, you should have.
Never holds up in court.
License. Yeah.
Ignorance is no excuse at all.
Challenge. And that's it for hunters. I mean, there's claims of shotguns getting caught up in the ban, and there are shotguns, there are 410s, there's some 22s that are included in this ban as well. And it's only by the careless wording of the ban and a lot of it by aesthetic.
Well, I don't think it's careless. I think they intentionally word things, to be vague so that they can.
Right. And it leaves the.
They know exactly what they're doing. They're not careless about anything.
And that's part of the problem. And then it creates a problem for us as hunters, as sport shooters, and for us that we train police and armed guards. Yeah. Well, we get into this problem now where if police want to train outside of their regular duty, they can't. They can't bring their AR to a range. Right? They can't train with us on the things that they would want to train. And by no means is their annual qualification, 30 minutes before they do their annual qual, is that considered training?
I mean, you're talking about billions of dollars of revenue that this is going to be affecting, because it's not just, it's everything that's associated. It's a trickle down kind of effect. That
it's the sales, it's the training aspect, it's the accessories. The parts.
Yeah.
And then it's, individual as well, because if we start with what they did with this list, and that stands, we let that stand, and somehow that doesn't get overturned. Well, what's next? They've alluded to municipal handgun bans. They've alluded to leaving it to the provinces and municipalities to decide to ban handguns. Well, then you get into the next level of people affected by this. So if it's just ARs and a bunch of niche guns, some people don't care. But then you get into handguns, and a huge vulnerability opens up for, again, police, armed security, and civilians who are sport shooters, because we can't, carry for self-defense, etc. But now you've got, again, this gray area, like, well, what are you going to do about my guns? Like, what's going on with my guns? They're now banned because of some arbitrary decision that has no fact-based approach, that has no evidence-based approach.
It's just a purely emotional knee-jerk reaction.
Yeah, it is that knee-jerk, let's find a solution that makes people happy, that is smoke and mirrors, that doesn't really address the real problems. It doesn't go after the real sources of the crime. Mm-hmm. And then it poses the third problem.
Well, you say the criminals are just sitting there laughing at Trudeau. He's like,
right. Right. Well, so then how do you enforce this? So from the law enforcement side, you've got all these agencies now, some of which are, they have gun-owning members, and there's a conflict of interest between whether they want to maybe carry out some of what they may be asked to do. Are they going to go door to door confiscating guns? I don't think they have the resources.
Yeah.
I think they have real crime to fight, and it's not the 2.1 million gun owners in Canada that they need to go knocking on doors and saying, hey, you may or may not have one of these guns, and we have to be here to take it from you, or... and they're still trying to figure out that framework. So there's so much confusion on both sides. Hunters don't know. They're always asking on social media, is my gun banned? Is this banned? I heard a rumor. I heard this. There's an Ivor Johnson single shot shotgun that somehow got caught up in this because of its bore diameter. There's no consistency to what it is that they're doing. And every level is suffering from the same confusion. Police don't know what to do about it yet because they're not directed. Civilians don't know what to do about it yet because they're not directed. And we're being sent letters that basically say, we'll let you know in 2 years. I don't know, Tracey, if you've gotten any of the RCMP letters. I got my letter, and it said, hey, here's what we did. But they don't mention the models. They just say, for more information, see the website and the bulletins. But they sent out, a mailing that notifies us that you have 2 years to figure it out.
You do.
But they still don't give instructions on what to do.
Yeah, that's it. They're 2 years. Hang on.
You've got 2 years to figure it out, and we don't know what it is. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's a generic letter like, hey, you might own guns that we banned. So within the next 2 years, once we figure out what you have to do with them, you're going to have to do something. That's what it says. Like, they don't know.
Can you send me a copy of that?
Yeah,
I got one right here.
I would love to see that. Yeah,
it's hilarious. Like it's like a flyer. It must have cost them millions of dollars.
Sending it to you right now.
Well, not only that, I mean, like you were saying, the billions of dollars that this is going to affect, commercially for your country, but the billions of dollars that it's going to cost them to enforce it. It's doubled, probably tripled. It's ludicrous.
Yeah. Well, and all the Canadian gun owners are fighting back against this letter because, see, at first people were scared when they got it. They're like, wait a minute, I don't own any registered guns. All of mine were previously non-restricted. Now they've gone all the way to prohibited. But how do they know? And I said, what they're doing is they're just sending it to every gun owner, just in case you own stuff that they've banned.
Probably sending it to every person, every citizen. Yeah.
I mean,
they're like, how did they know I had one?
Every one of these costs about $2.50 between what it costs to make it, have somebody stuff the envelopes, and then the postage to send it out.
Yeah.
So $2.50 times 2.2 million gun owners, for sure, at least that many people. And so gun owners, what they're doing is they're sending it back, return to sender, and they're scratching their information. Because what happens then is the government pays twice for postage, so it costs them even more money. And they're sending it right back to the RCMP without opening it. I haven't opened mine. I'm saving it because I'm going to make a fun video.
That's fun.
Yeah. I texted it to you, Marty, a screenshot of the
Yeah, I got it here. Yeah.
I'll send you the French version on the other side if you want it. But, it reads about as well in French and English. I mean, none of it makes sense.
2 years of
anyway,
French.
So,
It just sends you to a website too. Like, what happens to Uncle Willie living out in the bush? He doesn't even have internet.
He doesn't know anything about this gun ban. Yeah.
Oh no, most people don't know anything about it at all. Even a lot of hunters have never even heard of it. They don't know.
Right, and there's so much disinformation out there and fear because people are like, well, wait a minute, I heard shotguns are banned. Well, that's not wrong, but it's not every shotgun. It is almost a case-by-case arbitrary decision based on looks with these new ones that Tracey alluded to.
Mm-hmm.
And then some, it just so happens that nominally the bore is over 20 millimeters, so they're caught up in this ban. So it's like, well,
that's crazy.
I've got a Beretta 391 that it's an overboard shotgun.
So this sounds to me like something that these your government officials have been working on for a while, and they just weren't quite ready. But like you said, the perfect storm brewed, and they're like, let's just kick this out now, and we'll iron it out later.
That's exactly it. We'll figure out all the kinks, but for right now, we're going to make it stick because we have the ability to. And I don't think they expected some of the blowback that they're getting from it. And I certainly know that gun owners knew that they were planning something, but I don't think any of us saw this coming at this time.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and not this comprehensive either.
No,
I mean, I've always known they've had their eye on the AR-15, right?
They've said it, right? They've said it forever.
It's a bad reputation and stuff. But, they've been threatening us with that for years. So to find out that the ban was literally like 48 pages of firearms, it was just unbelievable. Like, I'm flipping through it and I'm like, oh my God, it's almost
everything. Yeah.
Huge.
Wow.
So, my advice to gun owners is don't do nothing. Just leave them in the safe for now. We're gonna fight the good fight. Don't
give up your guns.
No,
don't give them up.
And we're
without
given
a fight.
time frame, so for now,
you can always come to America.
Well, hey, Lefty, I'm coming down for some more classes once the borders open up proper, because I was down there for that Todd Jarrett class. Remember that? Just back in March before everything went crazy.
Yeah, we just missed each other on that one.
Yeah, that's right. So I'll be back down, provided that I can bring the guns I want to bring.
Well, there'll be some here that you can use if you know.
You think? You think maybe Nashville's got some guns?
I think got one or two.
I was down in Oklahoma in March, and my best friend's husband picked me up from the airport in Dallas, and he was carrying, and I was just like, wow, I don't even understand that level of delicious freedom. I don't even understand it. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah, it's something that we do take for granted here, and, hopefully through this show, through you guys being on, we can help educate our fellow Second Amendment proponents here in America, so they won't be, they won't take it for granted. It's just it's unfathomable to us that this happens in other countries, that people aren't allowed to do this. So it's hard for us to understand.
Don't give them an inch.
You can't. You can't. You definitely can't.
You can't.
And once you become the example, like everyone wants to say New Zealand, right? And if they can do it in New Zealand, they can do it in Canada.
They did it overnight in New Zealand, yeah.
Well, this is it, right? We're not on an island. We're not on an island, and we don't have the same problems that they have. But if you see it happening all over the world, then people start to think, well, yeah, it works, even though it doesn't.
No, it's not working.
Right? You tell the same lie enough times, and it starts. People start to believe it. So. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So I wanted to end on a good note, but
you look really stressed out for us.
Yeah, he does, right?
I am stressed out for you guys. I mean, this is horrible. All the bad stuff that's going on around the world right now, and especially in America with our riots going on. I wanted to bring. This is something that I've been wanting to do since I heard about it, and I'm glad that you guys took the time to be on to educate us about the gun ban and what's behind it, and it just sounds all too familiar. It's exactly what the liberals try to do here, the gun grabbers try to do here in America. But unfortunately, you guys don't have the Second Amendment to back you up.
No, we got the CCFR to help us out.
Got CCFR, and you got America, baby. So we'll do what we can, other than donate and help support
get the manufacturers involved, because we might not be the biggest market that they sell to, but at the same time, we've got stores here that supported them and bought their products that are now stuck holding on to God knows how many DPMS rifles and this, that, and the other, and how many ARs and how many XCRs and how many Stag 10s and how many Beretta CX4 Storms, Ruger Mini 14s.
See, I don't understand. Why are they picking on the Beretta PX4 Storm?
It was used in one mass shooting. I believe it was a Dawson College mass shooting.
It's like the last gun I would ever own, too.
Well, this is it. I mean, most of the ones that got caught up in the ban were used one time in a mass shooting. Like the Ruger Mini 14 was used back in the 80s, right?
Mm-hmm.
The M14, or the M1A that they banned, the M14 was used in a Moncton shooting, a couple years back.
So they're just going through and looking at all the mass shootings that have occurred and what was used, and then there's like, okay, that's on the list because somebody used it.
Right, and then they're using that as their evidence to support that anything that looks like it or operates like it becomes just like it. Well, there's no consistency, right? I mean, my Remington semi-auto, what is it? That 742 30-06 deer rifle does the same thing as any of these so-called military style.
It fires a projectile. They all do the same thing. They fire projectiles.
Right. Yeah. It's a gun.
It fires a projectile.
Give us some real hard evidence and let us come together as a community and tackle the real sources of the problem.
Yeah.
Let us educate each other. Like, it just seems that both
And it's
sides,
something that if we could come together as, countries.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, you guys are fighting this battle here. We're fighting the same battle. If we could come together somehow and combat it.
The problem, the strength in numbers is great, which is why they keep people fighting.
Well, exactly. Exactly. And if there was some way that we could unite worldwide.
Yeah, I hear you, buddy. Well, hey, it's happening. It's happening right now on Talking Lead. It's
there you go.
Tracy's talking to Napoleon Noir and all the other people too. Just getting out there and making it public. So
yeah. Well, we're behind you here at the Leadhead Brigade. So anything that we can do, you let us know. We're definitely going to push and promote this. Anytime you've got new news, feel free that you can come to us and disseminate that information.
Oh, sweet.
Because we like to leducate.
Yeah, I love it, man. And I appreciate it. Appreciate you just having us here. And, I'll text you all kinds of crazy now that I know that you're backing it. I'll send you all kinds of articles that Tracy's putting out there.
No, absolutely. Yeah, and Tracy, you do the same thing, too.
I will.
We'll get you guys back on when the next big thing happens and you can update us on what's going on. But until then, again, go to the CCFR. Go to their website, go to the social medias, show them the Leadhead Brigade support. Chimera Arms, I know you guys are behind this as well, doing your part. Give that website again.
Yeah, ChimeraFirearmsTraining.com. Or you can see us on Instagram as well, at Chimera Firearms Training. Check us out and just check out what we're doing with our virtual reality stuff, man.
Yeah, I know, and that's something that we need to talk about. I need to have you back on because we've not talked about your virtual reality training system yet, too. It's pretty badass.
There's some new stuff that you are going to just lose your mind over, buddy.
Yeah. So we're gonna get Mike back on. We're gonna talk about that.
Awesome.
But to help this show continue, Leadhead, support those that support the show. Kel-Tec Weapons. They're offering a 25% off discount on the RDB Survival Rifle right now. So you can go to their website and get details on that. But those things are really cool. I've got one of the RDB 17s that's got the new Defender furniture on it. I'm going to be taking that out hopefully this weekend, getting it sighted in. I'm going to be using that for hunting this season. I'm going to take down some deer with that. And then,
sweet gun.
Yeah, it is. It's really nice. Mission First Tactical, use the code LEADHEAD and you're going to get 20% off there, off any of their products, their holsters, their AR-15 furniture, their tactical dump trays and wallets. You can get the Talking Lead logoed wallets and dump trays there. 20% off, use the code LEADHEAD. And then also we were talking about LEO Takedown, that that system that LEO Takedown has that convert your AR-15 into an easily broken down rifle, or you can change out calibers, you can change out length of barrels, so you can go from CQB to precision long-range shooting in a matter of seconds. That's LEO Takedown. 10% off discount there on those systems that they have. Use the code LEADHEAD. You're going to get 10% off. Modern Spartan Systems. You're going to use the code TLCP15. You get 15% off, and they're going to donate 15% to Camp Patriot. Great veteran organization there that takes veterans out and hunts and fishes and shows them some good times in the outdoors. Modern Spartan Systems for all their cleaning supplies and lubrications. I'm actually conditioning the barrel in that RDB and the new AK I got from Occam Defense with their accuracy oil to make those even more accurate. So nice. You guys go there, modernspartansystems.com, TLCP15. And then at ASP, the flashlights that they have over at ASP USA, if you use the code LED20, you get 20% off any of their flashlight or flashlight accessories. I've been using their latest flashlight, the new Spectrum. So I've been using their new Spectrum flashlight. And as you guys know, we gave several of their dual fuel flashlights away last year. And I've been testing the new one out. And it's really cool. It's got a blue, green, and red light spectrum on it. So that's different from the one that we had before. Plus, it's still got the flashing, and then it's got the bright and the dim. And they're only like $80. So, I mean, they're really affordable. But you can go and get an additional 20% off. Use that code LED20 at ASP USA. And then, of course, Fiocchi Ammo. You guys go and show them some love on their social medias, their website, and buy their ammo. A lot of these ammo companies are sold out. You know, it's the gun sales, the ammo sales have been going through the roof here in the United States, but they will get more in. So go ahead and put your orders in, not only for the Fiocchi ammo, but Century Arms, the Red Army Standard. I know that they've been back ordered on that stuff too, but everybody's slowly getting everything back in stock. So go check them out. And if you won some stuff from us and you haven't received it yet, that's why. Just keep checking with them, checking with me, and we'll make sure that you get your ammos. And we gave away a Canic. Are you familiar with the Canic?
Yeah, the TP9s and stuff like that.
Yeah, TP9, the SFX. We gave away one of the competition Canics not too long ago.
The sweet gun.
And that should be into that winter pretty soon. And then, of course, we got a giveaway that we're doing with Kel-Tec, a Mission First Tactical, Buck Knives, Fiocchi Ammo, and S&B watches. And I think that's probably going to be around July 4th when we kick that one off. So stay tuned for that. We're giving away a CP33, one of those new 22s that Kel-Tec is putting out.
Yeah, they look pretty cool. Saw them in the SHOT Show too, right?
Yeah, they had those.
Yeah, they look awesome. They look really cool, man.
They had those. They had that integrally suppressed
Sub
2000, yeah. Oh my gosh, that was like my favorite of the whole show.
Those are the things of dreams here in Canada, man. Suppressors, they're the devil here. So.
Integrally suppressed, no doubt. You know, I got a can waiting on me at Royal Range.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, it's in jail right now, but hopefully I'll get that paperwork and I'll have it out pretty soon.
Yeah, those are pretty. I mean, that facility is amazing, right? That place is so cool.
It is. Tracey, there's this range in Nashville, Tennessee. It's called Royal Range USA. And
I like it.
They took an old movie theater and they converted it into a pro shop and shooting range and training facility.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
And it's amazing. You go check out their website if you get an opportunity.
I'll check it out.
I got some photos when I was in there last time where they've got that suppressed Barrett 50. Like, this thing is literally the size of a pickup truck. And
it's huge.
You know, yeah, it's in there with a big old can on it that looks like a piece of drain pipe. And
I got a Barrett 50.
Oh, I know. And now the Barrett 50's up in that ban. It's caught up in the ban.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, of course it is.
Yeah. Everything fun got caught up in the ban.
Yeah.
So.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, guys, again, thank you so much for taking the time to be on. We greatly appreciate it. And anything that we can do for you, we're here for you. Don't hesitate to shoot me an email, give me a call. The Leadhead Brigade is behind Canada.
Awesome. Thanks, buddy.
Thank
I really
you.
appreciate that.
Yeah. And until the next episode, Leadheads, as always, keep your loved ones close.
And your
And
firearms
your firearms closer.
Call the CCFR. Check us out at firearmrights.ca.